Welcome to the theater at Raritan Valley Community College. For your safety, please take a moment to locate the exit nearest your seat. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please proceed in an orderly fashion to that exit. Raritan Valley Community College is now a completely smoke-free environment. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Gomez.
And I'm Karen Appleton.
We are the co-presidents of next year's nursing class.
Today it's our pleasure to welcome you to the pinning ceremony for the Raritan Valley Community College Nursing Program's class of 2013. The pinning ceremony is a traditional welcoming into the profession of nursing. It began in the 12th century when new monks were initiated into the Knights of the Order of the Hospital of St. John the Baptist. As each monk vowed to serve the sick, he was given a Maltese crown as an emblem of his commitment. These were the first badges given to those who nurse.
Later, the mother of modern nursing theory, Florence Nightingale, was awarded the Red Cross of St. George in recognition for her tireless service during the Crimean War. To share the honor, she in turn presented a Medal of Excellence to her pupils.
Today, pinning is a time to celebrate the completion of one journey and the beginning of another, to honor challenges faced and surmounted, to commend compassion in the face of adversity, and to laud dedication and fortitude despite difficulty.
Today, we honor, commend, and laud the class of 2013.
Please stand and join us in welcoming the class of 2013 to the stage. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Please welcome our college president, Dr. Casey Crable, to the podium.
Good afternoon. As many of the students may know, pinning is my favorite ceremony of the year. It always makes me cry, although I usually get a little further into it than I have so far today. Usually by the end of the ceremony, I'm in pretty good company, though. Let me first start by offering congratulations and thanks to the family and friends who are gathered here today. 42 years ago tomorrow, I was sitting in an auditorium in Troy, New York at a very similar celebration, watching my mother get her nurse's cap and pin. This is why it's my favorite ceremony. I know how much of a family accomplishment that is. In fact, that is both how and why I learned to cook at the age of 15. So to the kids in the audience, way to go. You made a huge difference in the program for your mom or dad. To the parents, spouses, partners, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, cousins, go ahead, breathe a quick sigh of relief. They've only got the NCLEX exam to go now. I'm not even a little bit worried about that, because I'd like to recognize the amazing faculty and staff of the RVCC nursing program. I know how incredibly diligent they are, how hard they work each semester to make sure that our graduates are fully prepared, fully skilled, ready to take on their next challenges. I'd like my colleagues to please stand and be recognized. And I have just 3 things to share with the graduates that I think are applicable to whatever profession we find ourselves in. 3 small pieces of advice, if you will. First, trust your training, but continue your learning. Second, maintain the sense of gratitude that you feel when you look out here today. It will serve you well. And finally, find a way to nurture yourself as a professional so that you stay excited about what you do. It's really the best way to get through even a difficult day. Congratulations to each of you. All the best for a shining, rewarding career.
Thank you, Dr. Crable. Please welcome Catherine Hepson McVicker, Chair of the RVCC Board of Trustees, to the podium.
Thank you. I bring greetings and congratulations from the entire Board of Trustees to our fledgling nurses up on the stage here, and to their family and friends who have supported them through all of this. You do realize that you're graduating from the best nursing program around and from the finest community college in the country, right? You've chosen a field that requires compassion, which you must have or you wouldn't have chosen it in the first place. A field that requires smarts, which you must have or you wouldn't be here on the stage today. It requires leadership, because you will be decision makers every single day. And in the years to come, your role will be more and more important. And frankly, it requires a lot of guts. So I think that you all have all of this in abundance. Congratulations on the pinning and on the graduation, and congratulations to the family and friends.
Now, I would like to welcome Rich With.
I forgot my own cue. That's how excited I am. So welcome. I'm Richard With, the Student Nursing Association President for our day class. My peers and my friends, we have arrived. I'm not sure how we did, but here we are. And I am so amazed by each of us. I am amazed by you mothers and fathers who continue to raise your children while carving out time for the crushing workload of clinical care plans, research papers, and service learning projects. I am amazed by you who continue to work your jobs and yet found space in your schedule to do thousands of pages of textbook reading, create hundreds of flashcards, and study page upon page of PowerPoints. I am amazed by you wives and husbands, girlfriends, boyfriends, and fiancés who maintained your relationships as well as a GPA high enough to pass through each module to the next. And I am amazed by those of you reaching this point who managed to juggle all of these. That's why I'm so proud and humbled to offer this class address today. Not because of the well-deserved accolades of success and achievement represented by receiving our pins. I am proud and humbled because of the company I am in. So grandparents, mothers and fathers, spouses and children, brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, esteemed faculty, honored guests, and those who are with us only in spirit. Behind me sit the most intelligent, generous, compassionate, and insightful human beings I have ever had the privilege to work and learn with. But how do I succinctly explain what I find most remarkable about my peers? I have a favorite poet, Mary Oliver, who once wrote a very short poem. It goes like this. Someone I loved once gave me a box of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift. This two-line poem speaks to the reality and the reality that the very act of living, of being human, gifts us all with a box of darkness, sometimes boxes of darkness. Perhaps it's a beloved grandparent disappearing before our eyes due to Alzheimer's, a family history so cruel it would have killed a lesser soul, the cancer a mother is fighting, a complex illness in one of our children, a soulmate who died in our arms. But what is most remarkable about my peers is, instead of being devoured by fear and despair, rather than surrendering to suffering, these amazing people behind me, through the indomitable strength within their hearts, found the gift, the blessing hidden in the curse, and cultivated that alchemical spark of understanding, leading them to transform despair into compassion, fear into resolve, and suffering into service. Who could ask for a more incredible cohort with whom to share a life-changing journey? A group of people who have learned to take the darkness inherent in life and transform it into a commitment to the welfare of others. If there's one thing I know to be true about them, it's that they will always deliver to the patient what, to quote Dr. Abraham Verghese, is the most important of healthcare messages. Verghese is quoted as saying that this message is, I will always, always, always be there. I will see you through this. I will never abandon you. I will be with you through the end. Healthcare is lucky they've chosen this path. At this point, I'd like to welcome to the podium one of my cohorts in caring, president for the evening class, Casey White.
I have the privilege of welcoming our keynote speaker to the podium. She began her nursing journey at Middlesex County College, where she received her RN, continuing on to gain her Bachelor's of Science Nursing from Jersey City State College and Master's of Science Nursing from Seton Hall University. Her postgraduate coursework and education was completed at both Seton Hall and Rutgers University. She has guided, inspired, and prepared us over the past 2 years, opening minds and facilitating excellence. She has been our mentor, our lecturer, and our clinical teacher, shaping our future practice with her experience, her knowledge, and her wit. Ladies and gentlemen, the current president of the New Jersey League for Nursing, our own Professor Carol Patterson.
Casey, I'm always prepared. What an honor you have given me, this class of 2013, to deliver an address. Well, it's going to be my last lecture to you. Truly, I am, as I watched you walking in, I can't explain the feeling when you see the launching of a dream, and to see all the dreams being launched. It's like watching shooting stars. And I can never tell you what that brings inside of us as teachers. First, we've talked a little bit about the people that are sitting out there. And so I would like to acknowledge the important part that you played in bringing these folks to the finish line, the support that you gave them during the journey. You've made a lot of sacrifices, and now you celebrate this moment because you own this moment also. The role that family plays was brought to me vividly by a student of mine years ago who shared this story. She said her little son went to school, and the teacher was teaching about nutrition. And so they had a hot plate and a big pot, and she said, "Today we're going to make stew." And the little boy looked and he said, "I don't know what that is." And she said, "Well, we're going to put some vegetables in, we're going to put a little beef in, we're going to heat it up, and we're going to have stew." "I'm sure you've had that at home." He looked at the face of the teacher and went, So she said, "Okay, well, maybe they put chicken in it?" "Fish? Maybe just vegetables?" We ain't ever eaten nothing like it." She said, "Well, I don't understand. What is it that you eat at your house?" And he looked up in the face of the teacher and he said, because the teacher related this to the mom, "Well, my mom's a nursing student, and we don't eat nothing that don't come through the car window first." So, true story. So, for all of you who have been eating too much coming through the car window, or doing without, your sacrifice means everything, because look at what you've done. So, let's applaud the folks out there. Now, I asked myself, it took a long time to figure out, what am I going to say today? And I thought about, how far have you come? So let me take you back in memory lane just a little bit. It's September 2011, and I'm in H227, which is the learning lab. That's where all the mannequins are and all the stuff that scare people, you know, that we're working on. And so here you were, in front of the sink. "I'm going to wash my hands." And they stood before the sink and they went, okay, now think. How am I going to wash my hands? Because there's a way of washing your hands when you're a nurse, you know? So they turn on the water, and it's just the right temperature, because if it's too hot or too cold, it's a problem. And it's a skill you have to learn. And then one of them looked in my face and said, "How many squirts of soap do I need?" Okay, then I heard things like, "Well, the soap is going to reduce surface tension." Very good. "And I'm not going to use water that's too hot because it's going to take away the oil on my skin and my skin's going to break down." Very good. "And I'm going to rinse with my hands in a downward position so I don't contaminate." Great. And they got through all that. They washed their hands for 15 seconds, singing "Happy Birthday" 12 times. And they reached for the paper towel, and they methodically dried their hands, threw it in the waste paper basket, and then they reached to shut off the faucet. And I said, "Whoops, gotta start again." That's where they were. Now let me take you to the hospital. So in the hospital, the very first day of clinical, I call it the march. We get up there, and folks just start a-marching, round and around and around. They don't want to go in the rooms, you know, because they're afraid. And so they march. And they keep marching until I tell them, "Stop, you got to go in the room." And they go in the room, and they say, "Well, I can't take care of the patient because the patient's sleeping." And I said, "Get in there." Okay, they need their medicine. Get in there. Okay. So they stopped marching. Then the first injection comes, and they're in there getting it ready. and they're holding it like they have a magnum in their hands. And I'm waiting for it to go off. And we go to the bedside, and the patients look up and they go, uh-oh. Have you ever done this before? And they look at the floor, and they want to melt into the floor because they're on the other end of the needle, and believe me, it's more painful for them than it was for the patient. And then the roundup. So we've cleaned off the skin, and they've got it, and they've got the needle, and they're sort of like they're getting ready to hit a bullseye. And then they pull back, and they go to the skin, they go, ee, and they stop. And I said, put it in there. Shove it in. Okay. That's where we were. Was it not? That's where we were. So now you know behind the scenes what happens. Okay. By the way, in those first clinical days, I wear an Attends. Okay, because I'm always worried that I'm going to drip. Okay. True. I get scared too. Okay. But let me tell you what is now in front of you. These same folks, now, they go up to that unit. They go up to those rooms. They're organized. They know what they're looking for. They walk into those rooms. They have command of the room. They're assessing. They're looking at everything. They're looking at all the tubes and wires and machines. They're looking at the patient critically. They don't care if the patient is awake or asleep. They're going to assess those patients to make sure they're safe. There's no questions about that. By the way, there's no marching either, unless they're marching up to get what equipment they need. Patients look confidently up into their eyes, and they say to their families and to me, that's my nurse. Okay? They know who they have. They also feel the confidence in that these folks will talk to their medical colleagues and other members of the healthcare team, and will make adjustments in their medical schedules and say, you know what, could we try a different medication because this one's not quite right. And they're going to have the courage of their convictions to do that. They make adjustments on technical equipment, adjusting IV fluids and nasogastric tubes and really intricate wound dressings. They examine EKG strips. And yes, they even clean tracheostomy tubes. My, how things have changed. You have so much to be proud of them, and you have so much to be proud of yourselves. Because, you know what? I watched it happen, and I know how hard you worked. And hopefully you'll never regret how sharp your steel is, because somebody's life depends on that. So, what are we facing as we move forward? And you join us in healthcare, in the healthcare arena. And I use the word arena because I really feel like you and I and all of our other colleagues, we're gladiators. And we are out there fighting for the health of the nation on less and less money, with less and less resources. And folks, you need to be strong, and you are. Today's nurse has more empowerment than ever before to make decisions, but with this comes additional responsibility. As we respond to the challenges that our evolving healthcare system is bringing to us, the role of the nurse is critical because we maintain health, we look for ways to prevent injury, and ways to prevent illness. And this will be critical as we move forward in a new healthcare system. This requires that we, notice that I'm saying we, because you are us now, okay? We must be vigilant in watching the horizons to look for potential problems before they get to the patient, assessing for and eliminating modifiable risk factors, things that are going to get in the way of a quality life. That's where nurses provide the best possible service. We try to get to the problem before the problem gets to the patient, and that's what makes for a wonderful nurse. And that's what you are now prepared to do. As nurses, we also need to be ready through continuing education to implement the latest in research-based practice. We can't be throwing mud against the wall anymore because we don't have the resources to do that. We have to be careful in making sure that we make good use of everything that's out there because folks' lives depend on those decisions that we make. So you need to continue your education, both formally and informally, and to be actively engaged in professional organizations. That's where you're going to gain strength because in numbers and groups, we grow and become strong. You are looking at careers that are vastly changing from the traditional role, where we always thought that nurses just belonged in a hospital. Well, folks, that's just not true anymore. 40% and growing numbers. I expect in the next few years up to 60% of the employment opportunities are not going to be in those acute care settings. They're going to be in the community, which is where we work best. That is where we are critically important. The focus of healthcare is primary care. That's preventing illness. Who does that? We do that. It's preventing illnesses and injury, maintaining quality of life, maximizing the healthcare dollars. Also understanding that sometimes people can't be cured, sometimes people are not going to survive, but we can give them quality of life right to the last moment. You're going to see increasing numbers of clinics that are going to be nurse-managed and run by nurses like these folks up here. Affordable places where good health care, primary care can be given. Nurses involved with reserve corps that are going to respond to natural and unfortunately terroristic disasters that happen both in our state and nationally, helping our neighbors through those crises. We will be looking at how health care needs to be made available to the underserved, whether that's in the rural area or the inner city. As nurses, we are well poised to meet these challenges. We are standing in the gap at just the right time. Is this the place for you? Yes, it is. Because you are ready for the challenge. I know that. Let's take a moment to think about the word leadership. And it was mentioned a few times already this morning. Why would we address leadership at graduation when you think, well, I'm just a beginner, what would I be leading? But in your new role as a nurse, you are taking on the mantle of leadership. You're going to be leading groups of patients through their day. You're going to be leading ancillary staff and other nurses. You're going to lead committees. And eventually, you're going to lead healthcare facilities and organizations. But make no mistake, in the role that you have chosen for yourself, you will be called upon to lead. Leadership is not a genetic characteristic. It's something that has to be developed and nurtured. But leadership is done by ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things. Leadership develops as we put ourselves in the company of other leaders. Look around you for the people that are making things happen, not in a negative way, because that's like poison in a system, but those who are maximizing the potential of the people around them. Don't be fearful of approaching those leaders and kind of gleaning from them their insights and what they have to offer. Back in the 1980s, the late 1980s, my dad, who's one of my leaders and heroes, asked me to attend a military dinner. And at that dinner, by the way, he was not any big shot or anything. He was a volunteer with a naval organization that worked with teenagers. And we went to this wonderful dinner, and at the dinner, the keynote address was being given by General Gray, who was the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And after the speech, my dad grabbed my arm and he goes, "Come on, let's go up and talk to him." And I said, "Whoa, he's the Commandant of the Marine Corps. The President put him in that place. Who am I to even breathe the air with him? My dad said, oh, come on, let's meet him. Let's talk to him. Well, I was astounded, first of all, at my father's courage of going up and seeing this wonderful leader and talking to him. I was also amazed that General Gray really wanted to talk to us. And as I watched that interaction, I began to really understand that we become those to whom we associate with. And my dad knew that lesson very well. He had forged many relationships with high-ranking military officials. And I watched and I listened, and I knew that that was a place that I needed to grow to. Those people who are truly successful understand that as leaders, we are holding lanterns in the darkness to provide light for other people to follow, giving them hope, not false reassurance, but realistic hope for the future. And so those people that we surround ourselves with are important. This model of reaching out to people who are successful has enabled me to reach out and to meet some of the most incredible nurse educators, nursing leaders throughout this country. I have to tell you, people get really starstruck when they see these people on TV and stuff. Most of the time I can't identify who they are. But when I see some of the folks that wrote the books that I'm reading, I'm like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Because those are the folks you want to be like. Those are the people. Not the negative Nellies, not the people telling you what you can't do. It's the people that tell you what you can do. And we need to associate with them. John Quincy Adams defined leadership. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, become more, you are a leader. So, I'm going to ask you to develop positive mentors along the way. I have to get personal for a second. Really personal. Today, we're going to honor a former colleague and friend, Maureen Reha. And I can tell you that this legacy that a leader, a mentor, will give you will influence your life for a long time. And every person you touch gets a piece of what that leader gave you. I know that today, the teaching practices that I use, the organizational ideas that I institute in my clinical setting, my basic philosophy of nursing education are the direct result of Maureen's mentorship to me more than 20 years ago. She inspired me to dream more, do more, become more. Mentors are not also going to be just found in nursing. I have also been blessed by the counsel that I have received from a leader in this room, and that's Casey Crable, who helped me as I prepared for my leadership role with the New Jersey League for Nursing and encouraged me to keep my life in balance. Reaching out to leaders in any field, doesn't matter if it's business, if it's education, if it's nursing, reach out to them because they have the cookie. They know what you need to do to be successful. Mentors are critically important. I also would ask you to develop a social network that is strong. You will need people that you can talk to when times are tough, and you're going to need folks that you can talk to and be with when times are fun as well. At least once a year, I go with a group of friends who are nurses, and we have a girls' time, and we laugh for days, and we replenish our souls, and give each other positive encouragement and reinforcement. It's important, those social networks that you've started to form here, hold on to them dearly. They will help you survive the waves that will come against you. But I caution you, be careful of those who are destructive and negative, for they will bring you to personal and professional ruin. What are you called upon to do as a leader? Well, here's the future. Because you are going to influence quality health care, reduction of medical errors, increasing access to everyone, and developing strategies that we are going to face as our population ages. We're going to see some severe shortages of healthcare professionals. And so you are going to be critically important in the next coming years. Lastly, in order to progress forward in your career and to go forward in your profession, you must have a seat at the table. That means, as nurses, you have got to be out there. You have got to be influencing the system. Whether it's leadership at the bedside or whether it's leadership in the boardroom. Yes, I said boardroom. Because back in the 1980s, I would have never dreamed I would sit in boardrooms. You need to be there to make sure that people know what nurses bring to the table. You are there to speak for safe practice, to influence healthcare policies, to help us to use healthcare dollars in a way, to invest them in a way that we can get the most out of each and every dollar. And yes, you may also need to be political. Volunteer for opportunities to grow. Find a place to thrive, but don't expect to be comfortable. Because as you face these challenges and try new things, just as I shook going up to see General Gray, uncomfort means you're growing. Discomfort is a good thing. Consider the words of Florence Nightingale, a nurse leader well ahead of her time, and she said, "May we hope that when we are all dead and gone, leaders will arise who have been personally experienced in hard, practical work, the difficulties and joys of organizing nursing reform." In the 1800s, reformers. "And who will lead far beyond anything we have done." I wish for you strength, courage, and the willingness to be the best nurse you can be. But one more thing. As you are now my colleagues, whom I am proud to work beside, please call me Carol.